for us to ascertain the direction of someone else's gaze at a glance. We also have
Also, I walk around and at a glance you can see where the popular places are because all the workers are taking their lunch.
Now, at first glance, it may seem like, okay, that's really cool. So how am I going to use that?
Program that looks like this at first glance. Now, at the very top, I have a white.
Today is something that may at first glance seem a little odd. I'm going to be talking about
week at a glance calendar that we'd be giving out to all of the people that attended the show. Well, the show was
that you're looking up at when you glance up and you go, wait a second, it's a goldfish. It's usually
breaking up your attention, take a quick glance, do a just check, let me just quickly look at Instagram, that this can permanently reduce here and so on. But if you just take one glance at this complicated hierarchy, it's clear that couldn't possibly.
In a single glance, we can pinpoint the major robot.
The objects in this exhibition might seem at first glance to be quite far.
A glance is a threat trigger. That's why you should never fight in the car.
Stuff, where I get really the first glance of Kevin.
Teams that at a glance look most productive oftentimes aren't. But if you can create this conversational turn-taking,
objective. But it is important that at first glance it appears to be a sculpture.
Given that Deadpool has, at first glance at least, kind of a standard
appear at first glance. Right. A good friend of mine recently.
A cursory glance at ideas which were once considered absurd, impossible,
or a smile, or a contemptuous glance, or maybe a very awkward wink, or maybe even something like
visualize it and in one glance sort of get the idea of what's happening. And it makes it a lot harder to counter-argue those facts because
introduction, and they might not seem at first glance like histories of technology. Set against the booming.
They'll talk to you and just glance over to make sure that it's going okay, but there's no
overview module at a glance, which everything is on one page.
And it's so easy just to glance at my iPhone. And so it's just every time I...
Robust public education system to the health of American society. Yet a glance at the issues facing schools across the country makes one.
In situations that at first glance look like adversities. The large construction fence surrounding the restoration site.
Democracy is the Helvetica of politics. This is from Salvador. And, you know, at first glance when you see it, I mean,
logically through the book, and I would glance at the recipes and then close the book and then...
Sandy and Mike exchanged a glance, her eyes wide and horrified.
At first glance, many people might think it would be easy to define bullying behavior.
And reasonable, they sound intelligent on kind of first glance, but I think they